Ooh, that was kind of nice.
Welcome everyone to another episode and another season of Kerbal Realism. This is season 4. We are playing in the newest version of Kerbal Space Program. Kerbal Space Program version 0.90, beta than ever is what they call it. We're actually going to go ahead and start a new game in our Kerbal Realism set. So we're going to choose our flag. We're going to set our name, Kerbal Realism Season 4. Season 3 just ended. If you didn't watch that, I'd recommend you do that. So we are going to be in career mode. We're going to play in moderate this time around. Okay. We are jumping into the game now. There's a bunch of things that I have to configure, so I'm going to do those now. Okay, so we should be good to go ahead and start our journey. So, welcome to version 0.90, where Kerbal Space Center looks even poorer than it used to. That's because you have to upgrade all of your buildings, and upgrading in this series is going to be quite more difficult than I think it will be. So everything costs a little bit more, basically progressively. So, for example, if they're not upgraded at all, we can have a maximum of 2 contracts at a time. If we spend 48,000 monies, we can upgrade it. Same with the launch pad. We can only launch things that are 18 tons and a specific size. Same with the assembly building, vehicle assembly buildings, 30 parts, those kinds of things. So we need to upgrade all of our facilities to basically progress. So what we're going to do is choose our very first contracts. If you haven't done this before, I'd recommend you try that before watching the rest of this video. Have you guys left? Yeah? Okay, anyways. We're going to jump in and try to build our very first vessel here. I know how this works. There is a new mod called Kerbal Construction Time, which is going to be the bane of my existence for the beginning of this game. Later on, it's going to be mostly strategy, but for right now, it's more of like a wait timer and like free-to-play games. Later on, I'll explain more of what it actually does later on in this episode, of course. So this is basically our very first vessel. It's cheap. It's only $2,800, and we can easily recover most of the parts, of course, except for the fuel that we burned. We're going to call this the Contractor 1. Contractor 1. And we'll save that. And the crew, of course, will be Jeb. He has no experience, and we are trying to get him, I guess, experience if we can. Somehow, or reputation, or whatever it's called in this game. Now, Kerbal Construction Time. Now that I have basically done, it's going to cost 6 days, 3 hours, 37 minutes, and 35 seconds to build this vessel. That is Kerbal time, of course. So that's, what is that? 6 times 6. So that's a day and a half, basically. Our time, if you want to put it that way. Anyways, 6 days, Kerbal days, to build this rocket. Why? Why would I add a mod to do that? Well, that's because, in reality, it actually takes time to build these things, and you have to plan out when you are going to be launching your missions, and if you have a stock of resupply rockets or anything along those lines. And yeah, that's just kind of why I want to add this. It's called Kerbal Construction Time. It's another mod out there. It comes, I think, from the same guy who makes stage recovery, so they kind of tie in really good. So you can recover your stages, and then you can have extra parts in your part inventory that you've previously recovered that will bring down the construction time. Now, our build points per second, we have 0.75. It's not like I can modify this or anything. We can only give up to 0.75. That's because right now I only have one tier unlocked. You can have multiple tiers, in other words, build multiple rockets at the same time. Now, I can only upgrade that if I spend money or somehow acquire upgrade points for the mod, of course. So this is going to go ahead, we're just going to go ahead and launch this thing. It will cost some time to launch it. So if we hit launch, if we hit save again, because I moved the launch order around, it's not going to let us launch. We can simulate, which will cost a little bit of monies. Or we can build the vessel, which is actually what we're going to do. Simulating we will do instead of basically launching our vessels from now on. So that's a legitimate way to actually simulate our flights. Everything that is built, I will no longer revert. So I'll just if I mess up or those kinds of things, or during testing. Everything will be simulation. Everything will either cost money, or I'll get rid of that function for it to cost money in the future. So if we go ahead and click on our Kerbal construction time icon, we see that there are 6 days, 3 hours, 37 minutes. And we can warp to completion. It will bring us through the days here and you can configure how fast you can go through the days. If you're motion sick, do not look at this. Anyways, it's now night. I had to do a little bit of messing around. I think I accidentally changed a setting or something like that. It says it's day 2, hour 15. I'm not sure why that says that. But anyways, Kerbal construction time got it right. I think the alarm clock is just a little bit off for some reason. KSP time, not sure why. But anyways, we just finished. There we go. We're going to delete that alarm. We are going to... Where is this? Not build list. Turn off the build list for now. We are going to launch the new vessel because that is one of our things, but we need to roll out our vessel from the actual vehicle assembly building or from storage, wherever you want to call it. I don't think it actually specifies. So we're on the launch pad just before dawn. So we are gonna jump into that vehicle as soon as it is done being put out there. Cool, it's out there. This mod basically integrates very, very well with Kerbal alarm clock, but the alarm clock's a little bit off for some reason, and I'll figure that out soon. So now that it is ready to launch, let's go ahead and launch that thing. Jeb is in the hot seat, of course. The 2 contracts we are looking to complete with this is just basically launch a new vessel and reach 5,000 meters, so 5 kilometers. Okay, we are... I just turned on SAS. I'm actually going to do the crew report from sitting here right now at the launch pad there. Now we're going to hit our go button in 3, 2, 1, going. There we go. I'd like to have my flight engineer. It's totally different now, or Kerbal engineer. Not sure what they call it nowadays. To vessel, just for this specific launch. Mostly because I like to see my thrust to weight ratios. There are these cool little HUDs up here that I will be changing eventually to my liking, of course. I just want to keep myself basically relatively in the same speeds I'd be going if I was launching a heavier vehicle up to the height. I just want to grab my apoapsis to probably about 5,500. 5,500 is good. Yep, there we go. That's good. So that's our apoapsis just above the contract height. So we've got completed 2 contracts, reached 5,000, launched a new vessel, and of course our vessel was completed. So let's turn off our Kerbal engineer now. We should be descending, so I'm going to go ahead and prime my parachute, and it will automatically activate itself, which it just did. And we are just going to descend down to the surface and hopefully be able to recover these bottom parts. Now, this parachute is not sufficient enough to bring these few tons to the ground safely. So what I'm going to do is fire the engine just before we impact and hopefully land at about 3 meters per second so that we can recover the vehicle completely. Now, recovering the parts allows me to use them in future endeavors, which we are actually going to do this episode, of course. We're going to try to complete the very first 4 contracts, which is basically go all the way up to escape the atmosphere. Okay. There we go. And we have landed. So let's go ahead and recover. Boop, boop. Jeb is like, yay, that was the easiest mission ever. Now you get a nice week off, okay, Jeb? So we've recovered 5.9 science for that. A little bit extra than because of the crew report. We got all of our parts back. It looks like we even got the engine and such. So cool. And we got 1 experience for Mr. Jeb here. So he is at 1 experience. I don't really know what it does at all, but he has experience in being a pilot now. I need experience for the rest of these guys, specifically Bill the engineer. He's my favorite. Now, what we're going to do is try to get our next contract. So our next contract is to escape the atmosphere and orbit Kerbin, but we're not going to be able to orbit Kerbin. So we're just going to set the altitude record. So we can set the new altitude record and escape the atmosphere. Probably relatively easy. If we go in and make some modifications to the Contractor 1 here, and call it Contractor 2, before we change too much. Go ahead and save that. Let's just add some more fuel on, and that engine should be plenty sufficient enough to bring us there. It's maximum, so at the ground we're at 3.17 thrust to weight ratio, which is great, and we have a delta V of 3,000 meters per second, which is way more than we actually need to just dip out of the atmosphere and then come back in. Now we're definitely going to need to use the engine to land, so I'm hoping that we have a bunch of fuel left over before we land so we can slow ourselves down, because that little parachute won't be able to bring this thing down safely. So we're going to go ahead and launch it, and of course we have to build it, but if we go ahead and take a look in Kerbal construction time, we look at our pods. We have one available, and it's being used in here. We have one of the parachutes, and we also have the flight computer. Ooh, that's crazy. What is going to happen is that this specific model will only take 3 days, 1 hour, and 23 minutes to make, as opposed to the 6 hours that the smaller one did, because we're reusing parts. So let's go ahead and just build vessel, and we will go ahead and just jump out of here. This might actually take more time than it shows in the builder. Oops, wrong. Not sure. Sometimes the times are a little bit off. No, it's 3 days, so we're good. So, also another thing that's really nice, the launch pad needs to be reconditioned. It only takes about an hour and a half, so you just can't shoot 2 rockets off of the same place back to back. I'm assuming if we upgrade this thing, it gets a little bit better, but I'm not exactly sure. So now, the other thing that we want to do is, since we have some science, we will go ahead and research these parts. But oh no! The node will unlock in 2 days, 3 hours. That's because we need to basically spend some time researching this stuff as well. So it's not an instant you know all of these parts and you have acquired all these parts. It takes some time to research. So I spent a couple of points in tech in the upgrades menu here, which we actually have one extra if we wanted to spend. For research and development. So now we're getting, let's go ahead and hit the research and development to make 4 science per day. There we go. Now we will do 4 science per day, and it will take us a little bit less time, 1 day and 1 hour now, to research that node. So we can process 4 science per day, Kerbin day, of course. Okay. Now back to the vehicle assembly building here. We are going to basically warp to completion of the Contractor 2. That's because we don't really care about the rest of the reconditioned stuff, but it will stop us at the launch pad. Never mind, because that node already existed in the computer here, or in the, what's this thing called? The Kerbal Alarm Clock. KAC and KCT. Yeah. I'm going to get those confused all the time. Okay, so let's go ahead and just warp to complete of the tech. So that was basically a day just went by. So now we will be able to use those parts in a future mission. Future build, of course. And then we have 1 more day to get the Contractor 2 up and running, because right now it's at 38%. There we go. And once we get the Contractor 2 ready, we are going to just jump back into research and development here, and we'll take a look at the node, and we'll spend the money on the parts, so that we can use them probably in the next episode, because this one might get a little bit too long. Okay. Here we go. Now that we have everything unlocked here, we can actually go ahead and spend the money on the parts. We'll be able to use these on the next round. So we need to make a bunch of more science. My first thing I usually like to get is stability for the decouplers, but I also want the radial chutes to be able to recover the boosters and probably these things. So basically all of these nodes is the way I go. We really don't need these at the beginning, so these are usually the first 2 nodes I get. Survivability tends to be the first along with this, so it depends on which one I feel like doing. So let's go ahead and get our, let's get ourselves rolled out onto the launch pad there. Rollout will be an hour for it to get out to the launch pad. Boop, 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 boop. It's heavy. 21 seconds. And then we are going to be able to fly it. Launch with Jeb. And it's going to be a dusk launch, which is always fun. Okay. There we go. And what I'm actually going to do for this flight is we're just going to go ahead and open up our Kerbal Engineer again, because I keep on forgetting about it. And we're just going to hit the gas. There we go. Okay. Excellent. Bring down the thrust weight here. We're going to slightly tip over just a little bit, so that we're hopefully aiming for a water landing with this guy whenever we get to re-entering. We're just going to try to slip above the atmosphere slightly and then come back down, so that should satisfy both of our contracts that we have. We're going a little bit too fast right now. Whew. So yeah, I'm very, very excited for this new series. The last season did end kind of abruptly for me. I did have lots of plans, but the issue was that I had a new version that wasn't really compatible with my last save file of MKS OKS installed, so the colonization stuff. And what I really wanted to do in that season was bring a team to a moon or Minmus or someplace and produce parts and such, but it wasn't working because I was using a version that wasn't built for the version of Kerbal Space Program that I was running. Let's tip over just slightly, and that kind of messed up the save file whenever I tried to revert. Regardless, none of the parts worked, so it's not as if I could have downgraded and made them work. They just weren't. They just were not going to work for me at that time. So I decided to end the series after we brought supplies up to Bob and the crew on Minmus, or at the orbital base in Minmus. We're trying to get our apoaps just slightly above here. Hopefully we'll be able to do this with a little bit of fuel left. Yes, we will. So yeah, that's how we ended up finishing the season. I know it wasn't the best of seasons, and I did have a lot of plans for it, but now that I am more experienced with the modding community and figuring out version numbers, I guess, it would be a lot easier for me to then pick the right mods and also make sure that they are working and running right. I do want to do something similar in this season as to what my plans were for the next one, because that was one of the biggest hypes I ever had, was bringing somebody to Minmus, setting up a base there, launching new rockets from Minmus or probes from Minmus to go out, and then I think that's going to be a lot of fun in the future if we end up doing that. Now we're just about to leave Kerbin's atmosphere here. We've already completed the contract. The vessel has been completed. We've already completed the launch record contract, or sorry, the altitude record contract, and now we're just waiting to leave the atmosphere at 7K, 70K, so 70 kilometers. Reach space. Come on, you'll get there in a few seconds. And bloop, there we go. Music changes, contract completes, 14 science, and some monies. So we should be able to re-enter now. Now if we go to... Oop. And, oh, all my controls are not working right now, actually. I have to mess with my pedals. They got flipped around on me without my knowledge. we're just now descending. Okay, we are going to enter the atmosphere. There we go. Physics are now loading. And then we'll set ourselves to hopefully... Oh, we don't have a flight computer on this guy. I'm not sure why that happened in the last one. If I had... it might be that there was like some sort of way to position these guys to point the right direction, but you can do the remote tech stuff and have the flight computers. Oop. This is what I want. You can have the flight computers work for you, even if you're not a probe. I don't really know how that happened, or if I just had a part on there that allowed me to do it. So let's just hurry this process up just slightly. There we go. Turn off SAS. There's no point for us to have it right now. We have just a little bit of fuel left, which is great. There we go. And now we're descending. We are going to go ahead and arm our chute. Nope. Chute deployment unsafe. Okay. We are entering the atmosphere quite hot, actually. There we go. And hopefully we'll be able to land in the water nice and safe here. Keep Jeb alive. Jeb should easily survive, but the rest of the rocket, not so much. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy the chute now. Cool. We are should be slowing ourselves down a little bit. Maybe give a little bit of kick from the engines too. Okay. And I think that should be sufficient enough. We'll see. Even more from the rocket. And slowly descending 200 meters per second. Sorry, not 200 meters. 200 meters down. Okay, we just want to burn so that we have a descent rate of about 2 meters per second, hopefully. And then I can try to keep him from exploding in the water, or any of these parts, really. 55. Whoa, we went upwards. Not good, not good, not good, not good. Vertical speed. Excellent. Recover! Sweet. I did that just so we wouldn't break anything. Okay, and those are the two first missions in Kerbal Space Program. Not two first missions that I always do, so they're 4 contracts. We got a bunch of science from that because we just completed a suborbital flight. And also the 2 missions. We had no XP gain. Darn. If we go ahead and look at our next set of missions here. Next big one would be Orbit Kerbin. That's going to take a while, I think. So Fine Print is one of the the mods that was integrated into the game that allows a bunch of these, bunch more different variety of contracts from Gene here. He gives you a bunch of different contracts. So I think our first goal is going to be try to upgrade the necessities. So for example, the vehicle assembly building, the launch pad, those kinds of things, to be able to get rockets into orbit and complete bigger contracts. But that's going to be it for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's episode. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe. I tend to answer all the comments I possibly can that are competent comments, of course. So go ahead and jump into that if you'd like. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.